Okay, we're back here again today, and I'm very excited because I'm going to start painting in some of these flowers. And I've used my magenta and I've mixed it up and added a lot of water to it. As you can see, this is going to be really, really light. Here's my little test. And I want to make a point of leaving some places in the flowers absolutely white, especially in these flowers here where the sun is really hitting on them. So I'm going to start I'll start here up at the top, and I am going to wet the paper even in these little sections for this magenta. Magenta seems to be kind of a fussy kind of paint. It's a staining paint, and sometimes it can be kind of difficult to use. So therefore, I'm going to wet the paper first. And you really need to check back with your image to make sure you're in the right spot. And the way that this gets done is we're going to paint several layers to build up the flowers, and we're going to keep them, so we're going to start with really, really light layers, light colors, and then bump them up as we go along. And I'm just kind of pushing the paint. And again, this magenta, like I say, can be kind of tricky, so you don't want to mess with it too much. Just get the paint down, bring it out to the edges, and then leave it alone. There's another little tiny spot right there. Okay, and we're going to go through all of them and do this really lightest color first, but I want to show you this one where I'm going to leave some of this completely white. So I'm not going to wet the paper. I'm going to kind of wet it in these little sections of the flower, but I'm not going to wet the paper where I want it to stay white. So it comes up like this. And I've got this edge down here. And over here. Even this one, I'm going to leave a little bit of it white. And I'm just going to touch my paint into these spots. Drying off my brush and then pulling it out, making sure the paint gets all the way to the edges. Continue right around the form. Let's see, so the light is hitting in here. This one I think I can paint, this little section here I think I can paint all the way in. The light's not hitting right onto that. I'm making sure to avoid the yellow, which I think it's called the stamen here in the middle. So I want that to be yellow. Drying off my brush so I can push the paint around. It was this one. Okay. Then let's see. I'm going to do this back section over here. And as you can see, there's some, even when I'm just putting the clear water on, I am getting some of the magenta that's in my brush is coming out, which is fine. Kind of helps to actually see where you've put let the water down. Okay, throwing a little more in there. And this is really a great controlled method of getting the paint on by using layers. Okay, and then this inside section, it's going to work out to the areas that I want to be white. Okay, and there's quite a bit of water in there right now, so I want that to want to make sure that you don't knock your painting. Okay, I'll leave that alone. And then I'm going to jump over to another flower that's not touching this one. And this one here, the light is coming in and hitting the back side of this one. Or I should say not too much light is hitting it. So we can go all the way up to this edge here. And I have another little version of this magenta, and this is a slightly darker version. And what I did was I added a little bit of this Viridian green into it, because green is the opposite of red, and you can see this makes a darker version of the red. And eventually, when we get to the end of it, we'll go back and throw in a little bit more details into the house. You can see this paint is kind of mixes and separates and does some great things. Okay, and I want to catch this section over here. So there's a little leaf right there on top of that section. And this is a little bit lighter than this section down here, so I keep it lighter. And then we have these two little pieces right in there. So I'm running out of paint here already. Not following my own advice. Mix up way more paint than you think you're ever going to need. And I'm watering it down. I'm testing it. Looks good. Now I'm just going to get this little section in here wet. Add just a little bit of paint to it. Okay. And let's see, I'll do one more, which will be this one down here. See, here's another one that I definitely want the white of the paper to be shown through in a few of these spots. So first I'm going to do the places I don't need the white to show, which will be right in here. And adding a little paint. Pushing it up to the edges. cleaning off my brush. Okay, and I'm going to get just the bottom portion of this right here wet, these petals. And throw a little paint on there. That got on there. Okay. And I'm going to wet just this edge here. Throw a little more paint in there. This petal right here looks like it's behind the other ones. So it's actually darker. So at some point I will put a darker version, make sure that this is darker than the ones in front of it. Alright, so you get the idea. This is just the first layer. You can see that I got quite a puddle of paint here, water on this flower, and I just might soak up a little excess with my brush. But I don't really want to mess with it too much. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go through and do this lightest color on all the flowers. And the next video you'll see is where I'm going to put the next stage of paint onto the flowers, the next layer. Okay?